walking home on the walking trail. And you know what's so awesome? I know I can turn it around. Do you hear that? There's like frogs down there in this little creek. I can hear them. It's so cute. I don't know if my phone can pick this up, but I just love that. I love hearing those little frogs. Do you hear that? You hear all those frogs? I love being near like streams, and okay. It brought back this memory, and this is something I would never do like today. Golly, there's trash there. Bad, naughty people shouldn't throw their trash there. So it brought back this really lovely memory from when I was a kid. We used to go walking in the San Bernardino Mountains. There was a paved part of Highway 173, and then when you reach this bridge, it turned to like a dirt road, although it hadn't been completely a dirt road forever, because this is the funny thing. In 41, 42, they had attempted to pave Highway 173, but they realized with all the flash flooding that was going on, that they wouldn't be able to maintain the paved road. And I remember I used to be kind of fascinated with this when I was younger. I don't know why I was so fascinated with this. Like, even when I lived at home briefly in my early 20s, I was very fascinated with going on walks. And I used to run back then. I don't run anymore. I just prefer walking. I used to love walking on this trail just to see like the parts of the road that had not washed out. It was very interesting. And then sometimes I would walk. I think it was like a 15-mile like run. Like, I was running. Sometimes I would ride my bike. Like, I used to do mountain bike riding, although I think I was better at riding uphill because I was always kind of a scaredy cat when it came to riding downhill. I could at portions, but I don't know. Me and the bike were just kind of like not the best buddies, because I just feel like I never want to fall off a bike. Like, I used to ride a bike, yes, but the reason I don't anymore is I don't know, I don't feel comfortable, so I just prefer walking. Like, that's my thing. Like, I tried all the other stuff, and I just really, really love walking. So I just remember, okay, I'm kind of jumping around a bit. So when I hear the frogs, I'll tell you my initial memory. I remember we used to go down this highway. It's really a small road. It was paved up until this bridge because it had washed out. Like, several decades earlier, it had been paved a couple times in the 40s, like 1941, 42, but they realized that paving it was impossible because the rain and the snow would wash out the pavement. So essentially, they just would always warn people, like, don't drive down this road unless you, like, dire consequences. It was not really a super maintained road. I mean, Caltrans would go out there and do some clearing of brush and debris, but it wasn't super well maintained. People like to go four-wheel driving down it. My dad was really into four-wheel driving, but like a lot of times when we just would go on a hike, we would drive down to the part of Highway 173 that was paved, and then there's like this bridge, and there was a creek that ran under the bridge. It's actually, I think it might be Grass Valley Creek. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look it up, but I think it is. And it ran under the bridge. And we just, as kids, I remember I was about 5 or 6 when this happened. I was just so fascinated with how there were these little tadpoles like swimming around in the creek. It was just so fascinating to me. So at the time, my mom's like, we could take some home and let them like become frogs, but we took them back a couple days later. But I just remember that's how I learned about tadpoles. And then we went to the library and we looked up the life cycle of a tadpole. And that was just one of my earliest memories of just like walking and hiking. And there's a lot of trails like up in the San Bernardino Mountains when you go like near Highway 173. There's trails at different points. There's also like a Jeep trail that you can take, although a lot of that four-wheel driving just really freaks me out. My dad was really into it in the days, and sometimes if you drove all the way down Highway 173, the thing that would freak me out is it was almost just like one lane, in some areas. And then if somebody was coming up and somebody else was coming down, like somebody would kind of be on the edge and you would feel like you're going to go over the side. Oh my gosh. That just used to freak me out. But all the four-wheel drivers loved it, and they would sometimes like go up on the hill, like in there. I just, we were never the biggest fans of four-wheel driving. My dad loved it. So we would sometimes get out of the truck and we were like, we're going to walk. We are not going to go, like that wasn't the only road, because that one, even though that could scare the bejeebies out of me, there was this other, they closed a lot of these like off-road trails and roads, by the way, during the Reagan years in the 80s. They said it was because of funding. I don't know. They just, that's weird. Like, it's public lands and you close them. Because I remember years later, like in the late 90s, my sister and I went mountain bike riding one day and we found all these like fences that had closed off these roads. And I asked my mom about it and she goes, oh, well, you know, remember during the Reagan administration how they like closed off a lot of campgrounds and public trails. And I think that's kind of weird. Like, it's public land. Why did you close it off? Close it off to the public? Because they said it was a waste of funding. And I'm like, these are public lands. That's very strange. But you know, they're not really safe roads anyway. So when they finally closed a lot of those roads, I had no sadness about it. My dad used to have to go four-wheel driving on this one road called Caterpillar Road, and he just thought it was so exciting, like to go up and down. And I'm like, no. And my mom's like, we would not. We'd get out and walk. I was just never a fan of the crazy sauce, applesauce, four-wheel driving. No, not for us. We'll walk. Thank you very much. Like, it was very captivating to people that love that sort of thing. They love their four-wheel driving. Yeah, I mean, people still do it nowadays. I don't really understand the point. I like going out in the desert and looking around, but not the crazy sauce, applesauce. Let's go up these trails. I think a lot of those trails are closed now. Well, there might be ones that are still open, but not my thing. I'd rather just go out and go walking, and I have good memories about when we would go down. We'd go on a hike on like this one trail that would catch up with the Pacific Crest Trail. They would go out towards this place called the Hot Springs, where the Serrano people, like they used to have like a winter camp, and they were natural hot springs. I personally, we never would go in the water there because it's kind of polluted because people don't treat it right. But it's back in the days, like before large numbers of people had migrated to the Americas, it was a pristine place where the Serranos had their winter camp. And it kind of makes you, I don't know, these stories kind of make you feel sad for the indigenous people and how they lost their lands and they just peacefully gave them up. It's very like, you think about all these stories, and then some people now, I don't know, I'm jumping all over the place, but some people are upset because the Yamava Resort, which is run by the Serrano people, is doing so well and they're making millions of dollars. But I'm like, you know what? That's only fair, because they lost all their lands around here. They lost all of their lands. And Serrano is a Spanish word for mountains. It's not even their indigenous, like, there's an indigenous name for that group of people, but I don't want to say it wrong. I'd have to look it up. But if you're very fascinated with the history of Southern California and you want to look up about the Serrano people, it's very fascinating. It is sad though, because I don't think there's any native speakers of that language anymore. I think they're all gone. I think they all lost their language. They lost their culture. Very sad story in a way, but you know, I applaud the Serrano people. They should have all the money. Like, if people are going to that resort and they're making millions of dollars, I mean, I personally don't want to waste money gambling. I think it's a waste of your money. But there's other things people do there, like they go to concerts and events, and I'm like, good. I feel like they deserve that money. And you know what's so greedy? If you look into the history of this, like a lot of the tribes had to fight, like, to keep their like their slot machines and their games on their reservations, because all the big like casinos like in Las Vegas and Atlantic City saw them as a threat, because now people don't really, like, people still go to Vegas, but not like they used to. Like, anyway, I don't know. What is there to do in Vegas? I did not. People say Vegas is fun. I'm sure it is, like, but I don't know. I went once, and I don't know, where they went in the fall time to gather acorns, and they would grind like these holes in the, I'm trying to think, it's granite rock, I believe. I'll have to look and see. Yeah, I know there's a lot to do in Vegas, and some people really enjoy it, but like, I'd rather go to Disneyland or Hawaii. That's just my take. Like, I'm not saying I'll never go to Vegas, but I don't drink, so that has no appeal to me. I have gambled in the past, but I always lost money. Not all the time, but I guess I'm just at a point in my life that I don't really want to go to Vegas. I don't want to do that. But, you know, good for people that want to do that. But anyhow, I was just thinking about all the beautiful landmarks and the surroundings of the San Bernardino Mountains. And this place is a very beautiful place. Like, people love to talk bad about California, but there's a reason a lot of people stay in California. I know a lot of people, like tons of people, are leaving California left, right, and center. But that's really not true, because I'm a lifelong Californian. I know a lot of people who've stayed in California. Yes, it's more expensive here, but from what I've noticed, it's getting more expensive everywhere. So I don't think that's necessarily just a California problem, but there's just so much beautiful surroundings in California that you never want to leave. Like, it's just so beautiful here. And I know there's other beautiful places in the country, but I do find it interesting, like, a lot of people that left California, they went to Texas, they came back because they said it just wasn't as beautiful in Texas as it is in California. And I'm like, well, there you go, Spaghetti-O. I love California. I'm a lifelong Californian. This is a very beautiful place. And I know people always want to talk about the negative parts of California, but I don't, no, I'm over it, because I think I was kind of led down that path of feeling that way by people who, I don't know, they kind of have some sort of grudge against California, or they just don't like us. Like, I just get this impression a lot of people don't like Californians. I don't know. That's what I feel. That's what a lot of us feel, because, like, in the U.S., I'm not talking about other places. Like, it's not people outside the U.S. that I get this from. It's other Americans that, like, we're American, okay? But a lot of people just, they don't like us for some reason. And they always, like, made, like, when I was a kid, like, they'd make silly jokes, like, oh, California's gonna fall in the sea, which, by the way, I don't think that would fly nowadays. That was kind of a weird joke. Like, why would you make a cartoon like in He-Man talking about California falling into the sea? It's not even scientifically accurate. Like, be scientifically accurate if you're going to have a silly cartoon, right? I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. But California is a very beautiful place. And I do, like, feel sad for how the indigenous people lost their lands. And I think their culture, what's left of it, is very beautiful, but it's hard to know much about the exact precise things of their culture, just because so much of that was lost, you know, with colonization and immigration and things like that. But in modern times, I think you just have to admire how beautiful this place is. Like, the fact that so many people wanted to live here. Like, if you ever look at the population of pre-colonization America, pre-Spanish colonization, pre-Mexican colonization, pre-American colonization, 10% of the Native American population that was living in what is considered the continental United States lived in California. It has always been a very populous place because it's a good environment, and you had hunter and gatherer people that lived in the mountains and in the desert, and they were very in tune with the land. Like they would spend the summers in the summers in the mountains, fall in the mountains, and then winters in the desert. Like it's just interesting like how they planned out. And then they would go, like they would camp out at the hot springs, and they had a spiritual connection. It wasn't just like nowadays, like what I didn't really like, okay, like just people not like respecting the spiritual side of that place. And just I feel like I feel like bodies of water should be treated with respect. I don't like it when people pollute and they do trash. I know a lot of people got mad at me, or one person did, like, oh, like, you don't think graffiti is culturally relevant. No, I don't, because, yeah, why would you do that to a beautiful place? I don't find it culturally significant. I find, like, natural beauty of nature culturally significant, like hearing frogs in a stream. That's culturally significant to me, you know. And I'm always gonna feel the way I feel. I'm not put on this earth to make other people feel like whatever they think is cool is coolest. And I always just want to be true to me, and I like people that admire and respect nature and bodies of water, and they don't want to pollute them, and just want to go out and be in nature in a positive way. Because I do love being in nature. I don't really go to the mountains anymore because I don't live in the mountains anymore, but I had a lot of experience growing up there. But, you know, I'm in a part of my life where I don't live up there anymore. But if you do live up there, there's a lot of beautiful things to, like, appreciate and explore. But I just hope as more, like, when I was younger, people went out in nature. But I feel now with the internet, people have begun, like, it seems like outdoor activities are a little bit more popular than when I was a kid. Like, more people are doing them. So you just need to be very aware that there are bears and mountain lions up there, and be careful. Like, don't go out places by yourself. Like, I saw a bear one time when I was out running in the woods, and it kept going the other way, but it freaked me out. So I wouldn't go in the woods, honestly, by myself with a bear. That's Lulu. Nobody should go out in the woods with a bear or a mountain lion. I'm more scared of the mountain lion, actually, than the bear. But I love going out in nature, but just those times when I used to go out by myself, I don't know. I'm just very lucky I didn't encounter, like, a wild animal. Some people were attacked by them. I've never been attacked by a wild animal. Maybe because I don't want to sound all, like, I think they know that I respect them or something. I don't know. Because I have this kind of respect for wildlife. Because I was out there, and I'm sure maybe they saw me sometimes. But I feel like, because even cats, like when I see a cat, they'll kind of know that I'm not going to do them harm, or like a bird. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. But anyway, I loved living as a kid in the mountains and going out and looking at little tadpoles and hearing frogs and creeks and going on hikes and just doing nature-based things that are positive. You know, you don't need to go do wild stuff to have fun. I mean, I do like to go to Disneyland, and I do like to go to the ocean, and I would love to go to Hawaii again. But I don't know, those are just all my thoughts anyway. Thanks for watching.